What we were going to be doing here is we are going to be installing a 3-foot section cut out of a 6-foot section with one through post and one crossover post. I have the through post installed already, but it would have been perfectly acceptable to install the hardware on the through post prior to installing it onto the deck. I have marked the location of the bottom bracket, which is going to be 1 5/8 inches off the deck, and I have also marked the location for the top bracket, which is going to be 32 5/8 inches above the bottom bracket. I have also marked the location for the bottom bracket on the crossover. So at this time, I'm going to install the hardware. The cup is the same width as the 2-inch post for easy placement, and this is going to install with 2 screws. They are stainless steel self-tappers, and there's no need to pre-drill those holes. What we have here is we have the bottom rail that has been pre-cut to the length, and we have the top rail that has yet to be cut. This is going to be on the side of the deck where the through post is, which we need the top rail be cut to the same length as the bottom rail. So as I bring my bottom rail over to the edge of the top rail, you can see my first spindle holes, my first baluster holes do not line up properly. So what I'm going to do is just simply line these up properly, and I will be able to make a mark on the top rail where that top rail needs to be trimmed so it has an equal baluster spacing at the first hole. At the other end of the railing system, we're going to install a crossover post. The top rail needs to be trimmed 1 inch longer than the bottom rail on every crossover application. So as you can see here, my bottom rail is at the far side of the photo and my top rail is on the closer side. And you can see my baluster holes are all lined up properly. So I'm going to mark my top rail 1 inch longer than the bottom rail and make my marking, and that's going to determine where my saw cut is going to be on the top rail. What we have done here is we have marked the length of the bottom rail. We have made sure that the first baluster spacing is identical on one side to the other side, and I have marked the bottom rail, and I'm going to be cutting the bottom rail and the PVC insert all on the same cut. At this point, we're ready to, we have the bottom rail in place, and we see that it's a secure fit. We're ready to do the side entry screws. At this point, we're ready to install the balusters into the bottom rail. It takes about 30 pounds of down pressure straight down. At this point, we're ready to install the top rail over the balusters. Simply start by placing the top rail in the cup and then feed the balusters into position. All the balusters are now inserted into the top rail, and we need to fully seat them that the balusters rise all the way to the top of the inside of the top rail, and you do that by using a rubber mallet. In most instances, you can get enough movement out of the 2-inch crossover post to get the top rail in position properly. And usually it's just a friendly little tap to get everything inserted into place. And then we're going to attach the top rail to the crossover post with 2 screws coming up from the bottom. Then we're going to install the screws on the top rail coming from the side and then coming from the outside. We're now ready to install the top rail cover. This is a male-female tension fit, and it's just simply rubber mallet to drop into place. We'll repeat that on the bottom rail. The only difference between the top rail cover and the bottom rail cover is that the bottom rail is flat where the top rail is rounded. Once your railing is installed and you're satisfied with the look, one of the final things you want to do is make sure your posts are level and plumb again. And you'll notice that the leveling feature is running parallel with the railing system, and you have full access to that even with the railing installed. So after you're satisfied with the plumb and fit of your post system, it's ready to install the two-part flare, which you simply slide that across from the inside or the outside, attach the small piece, and tap with the rubber mallet. Then you can move on up into the top of the post, and you can install the flat cap with the tap of the rubber mallet.